Morning, everyone. There's lots of things I could have talked about today. I wanted yesterday to be a slow news day because I was in London. I watched the TV debate, then had to immediately go to bed and get up at like silly o'clock in the morning. And I mean silly o'clock in the morning. And actually, technically, half past silly o'clock in the morning. It was 5:30 to get to London. And I was at a YouTube event, Google headquarters in London, which covered a few things, but it specifically covered how YouTube are going to approach the election and how social media is taking over in this election, because it was one of the panelists described it in such a way. So I've put on here, it's the first social media election. Now, people will say, hang on a minute, Phil, social media was big in the last election and the election before and even the election before. And it's not the first social media election because it's the first one where social media is big. It's specifically the first social media election because it's the first one where social media is bigger than established media. More people are using social media, for example, for their political information, their election information, than mainstream media. So social media is now where it's at. So I'm going to talk about, the political parties and why they seem to be so far behind on it. So first of all, it's worth just going through a few things. So what prompted me to talk about this? And it just sort of lined up. Someone in a WhatsApp group posted a Financial Times article with the headline is Labour goes viral as it pulls ahead of Tories on TikTok. So, I often talk about the fact that political parties, and I particularly moan about Labour, are not, as Steve's there saying, 5:30, you big wuss, been 5 a.m. all week for me, life of a lorry driver. Okay, there are people who do it more often. I don't like it. One of the benefits of being a YouTuber is supposed to be that you can wake up and go, do you know what? I fancy another half hour in bed, so I'm just going to take it. But anyway, it was at least light. It'd be worse in winter, I suppose. But yeah, so if I say things like, and I did say it at the event yesterday, the political parties are not taking YouTube in particular serious, but social media in general seriously. And when I asked this question, there were a couple of panelists. Now, the reason I asked it of these panelists is, although technically one of them was a YouTuber, but not a big one, they were both advisors to the Prime Minister, not the current Prime Minister. But they've both been advisors. One of them was an advisor to David Cameron. One of them was an advisor to Theresa May. So they've both worked at the heart of government. And I was asking, why don't they take social media seriously? And particularly, why don't they take YouTube seriously? Now, part of the reason I'll say for that is, so this article talks about TikTok. So Labour are absolutely going to town on TikTok. And they're probably doing it I'm not an expert on TikTok, but they're probably doing it in the right way. Like they're pushing the memes, right? Pushing the engage. And I always say this is what is missing from their YouTube content. I always say you have to focus on engagement, message, engagement. Whereas on YouTube, it's just the message. There's no engagement. Whereas on TikTok, they're doing it better. And it is being taken seriously. For example, in America, Joe Biden is hiring a meme manager, literally. He's hiring someone to be their meme lord, is how it's being described. So, political parties do recognize that social media is huge. And let me tell you how big YouTube is now. So a little stat that came up in my meeting yesterday. This is in America, by the way. I don't know what it's like for Britain. But in America, more people watch YouTube on their television, not just watch YouTube. More people watch YouTube on their television than watch Netflix on their television. So that's how big YouTube is now. It is now, it's no longer just a video sharing site. It is established media. And I learned a lot of things about what they're going to be doing about the election, because unlike some social media platforms are taking it a bit seriously. They are going to be pushing against misinformation in this election because remember, it's not just about the UK general election. YouTube have been on it a lot. I mean, there's half the globe taking part in elections. We've already had Russia, now India, Poland. We've got European elections coming up this weekend. We've got the US presidential elections in autumn. There's been loads of others as well, and there's going to be loads more. And YouTube are all over it. And one thing they're going to be doing is pushing messages that direct people to reliable sources of information and away from unreliable source of information. For example, one thing they mentioned yesterday was that there will be people posting content about what voter ID you need, and some people will post the wrong information. So YouTube are putting a lot of effort to try and deliberately suppress the wrong information and amplify the right, accurate information. Johnny Copperhead there, £2 super chat, thank you. I always get up at 5:30 a.m. My bladder insists. Yeah, mine does not at this point. So I had to have an alarm. But Nick and Div saying, Meme Lord, I could do that job. Well, apply for it then. It's $83,000 a year. I don't think it'll last for the whole year, though. Says, we watch a lot of YouTube on the TV. It's our main channel, not politics, though. Film reviews. I watch politics on my phone. But, but a lot of people do. And it always grieves me that political parties, particularly Labour, in my case, don't take it seriously enough. So it's like they are taking TikTok seriously. And it sounds to me, I'm not an expert on it. Maybe a TikTok maybe Tan could look at it and go, oh, it's still shit. But I look at it and think, okay, they're actually taking that seriously. They seem to be doing TikTok in the right way. And certainly the results are better than it is for the Conservatives. At this point, we know that most of the social media activity within the last week. It's a bit like when you're looking at spending, like in the last week, Labour have spent more than the Conservatives on social media advertising. Doesn't mean anything because the major spend, the major activity is in the final week of the election because most people make their minds up. If they haven't already made their mind up, most people make their minds up in the last, frankly, 48 hours, sometimes in the last 48 minutes. On the walk it doesn't take 48 minutes to walk, but on the way to the polling station is when they're having a little think about it. But if you look at their YouTube content, whether it's the Labour Party YouTube channel or whether it's Keir Starmer, because Keir Starmer made one, it was like, oh, he's going to get serious about YouTube. And it's like, no, it's rubbish. I asked this question of these two people yesterday, these two former advisors to prime ministers, and I basically opened up with, so I didn't make the question too long, why aren't political parties taking YouTube seriously? Because Labour, for example, are saying they've been specifically trying to work with people who are big on like TikTok and Instagram, things like that, but not YouTube. They're not interested in YouTube. And initially they said, oh, I think you'll find, they are taking it very seriously. So then I gave them specific examples to say, no, they're not. And one of them, who was the advisor to Theresa May, was saying, actually, Rishi Sunak's doing really well, though. And it's like, okay, Rishi Sunak has a YouTube channel and he has been getting a lot of views on it. But if you look at the channel is still crap. It's still a rubbish channel. I could point out lots of things about it which mean it's not doing its job, because think about what the job is there. Why would a political party want a YouTube channel? To get access to the public, so it doesn't have to go through the normal media channels. The Conservatives don't want stuff going through the normal media channels because those normal media channels are calling out their lies, or some of them are. I mean, yesterday after the TV debate, we know the Tory newspapers were promoting that lie about the £2,000 extra taxes, but the broadcast media were having to fact check it. And they were adding nuance, and they were adding that letter that was sent to Darren Jones saying, oh no, Rishi Sunak seems to be telling some porky pies here. These figures weren't come up with by independent Treasury officials at all, but by his own spads. So ideally, the Conservatives would like to get their message directly to people through social media, but they're not doing it very well. Even though if you don't know what you're doing on social media and you look at it, you think, oh, actually that's channel's doing really well. The Rishi Sunak YouTube channel's doing really well. But I look at it and go, no, it's not. And certainly the Keir Starmer and Labour Party one are definitely not doing really well. Phil saying that the Labour John Richardson ad was very good. It is. There is some individual, like in terms of some of the specific content, some of the content that the Labour have come up with has been very good, and it has been for a little while. They played an absolute blinder, for example, in the 2022 the Conservative leadership contest. So they have been producing some individually good content for Twitter, for TikTok, possibly for Facebook, but I draw the line at Facebook is basically the son of social media. So I don't really have anything to do with that. I don't like Facebook. But it's also clear that Labour don't like Facebook either, because they don't use that either. But it's it just baffles me that they're not taking YouTube seriously when YouTube is absolutely massive. Not only do Google, like the two top search engines in the world, the two biggest search engines in the world, first of all, there's Google, who own YouTube, and the second is YouTube, who are owned by Google. So it's absolutely insane that in an election where you are going to get people searching for things all the time, that political parties are not making sure that they have that really strong presence on YouTube. And in terms of what's going to happen with the election as well, I'll tell you some of the things they said that's going to happen. So I think I've already mentioned this. So they're going to suppress content that appears to be misleading, that is unreliable, because they know there are going to be bad faith actors on their own platform. And they said, I mean, obviously, content that breaks, because they have rules, right? They have community guidelines. If your content breaks those rules, then depending on how it breaks them, if it's really, if it breaks certain rules, it'll just be removed. If there's sort of rules it can break, but it won't be removed, it'll just be demonetized. So that's another thing. But then it is also possible to sail close to the wind in a way where you are deliberately, or maybe just accidentally, misleading, but it's still potentially harmful to the election. So YouTube are coming up with ways of having, it's still their same general guidelines, but suppressing videos and channels that are not helpful and amplifying ones that are. So they are going to be doing a lot about that as well. Nick and Div say, I left Facebook in 2020, no regrets. My other half complains it's full of ads anyway. See, I don't use it anymore. Unfortunately, I made a different bias Facebook account, so I still sometimes get people message me on it, and I occasionally will go on and try and respond to something, but mostly I don't. So if people are doing that, please don't. I should just delete. I can't delete the whole thing, because there are still some people who I know who insist on using Facebook, and so I need Facebook for that. But I don't use it. I'll sometimes go weeks without looking at it. But there it is. I've never really liked it. At one time, I thought that when I was going to be doing full-time YouTube, I should develop things on other platforms, and Facebook's a big one, and of course I should do some stuff on Facebook. And then I just thought, no, I can't be asked. But anyway, Twitter is different. I know a lot of people find it too toxic these days, but Twitter is different because it's where you get experts. So for example, if I want to comment on some breaking news, I mean, what are my sources of information? I could watch, if it's a politician announcing something, okay, I can watch the video of that politician announcing it. What else can I do? I could read it in the mainstream media, an article, in which case I'm reading a filtered version of it. On Twitter, you've got experts. So if there's a story about asylum, I follow human rights lawyers. If there's a story about healthcare, I follow, healthcare experts. I follow constitutional experts. I follow a variety of legal experts, actually. I follow trade experts. If there's an issue around Brexit, for example, or just anything to do with trade. You know, I follow experts. I've spent my time on YouTube following a variety of experts, you know, the top polling analysts. I mean, I know I'm sort of all right at reading polls myself, but I'm not an expert. But there are experts out there, and they're on Twitter because Twitter is an absolutely brilliant platform for just disseminating relatively simple information from experts. YouTube's no good because most of them don't have the time or the inclination to make a video on it. Facebook's no good because it's all like closed communities anyway. It's absolute crap. TikTok is you know, I mean, again, I say I'm not an expert, but there's a particular demographic on, so it's not necessarily ideal for that either. You know, there you go. No love for Threads, Phil. No, because it's not established. Also, the way it's designed, Twitter is just perfect for getting information from experts. There is no way of beating it other than to remove Elon Musk from it. Like basically, I said the UN should take over it because Twitter is such. It shouldn't actually be a private enterprise at all, really, because it's such a brilliant platform for sharing information, expert information, that actually the UN should have bought it. The UN should have the world should have said, Elon Musk cannot have this. It would be like giving a Ming vase to a child, a small, hyperactive child at that. You know, the UN should have said, no, we're having, if the owners of Twitter don't want it, we'll have it and we will develop it as a source for the global good. There is, unless you copy Twitter, you are not going to make anything as good. And even then, you'd have to persuade people that you've made a better version of it. But there we go. Starmer accounts posting policy information on LinkedIn. The problem with their content, though, on almost every policy platform is it's always about the message. On Twitter, sometimes the message is engaging and it works well, but it's always the message. If you look at Labour's Twitter, and they take Twitter more seriously than they do YouTube, it's 100% message. Now, sometimes that message is engaging as well, in which case it works. It gets loads of views and it does really well. But, you know, they don't seem to understand that you can actually put content out there that's just pure engagement. There's no message. It's just engaging. And it's interesting. That's what they need to understand. The priority is engagement, not the message. If you can weave the message into it brilliant. If you can post engagement, like 10 engagement posts and then one that's like a serious message, you'll get more people then read that message. But what you don't do is just focus on the message. Now on TikTok, they do seem to be pushing engagement. It's like they are prioritizing engagement, and that's why it's working. So you go back to this article, it's working. So why aren't they doing it on YouTube? Why aren't they doing the same thing on YouTube? Not in the same way, because it's a different, a video that works on TikTok doesn't work on YouTube necessarily. It might work on YouTube Shorts. But why don't they do that? And they're not doing it. But anyway, never mind. A Ming vase might be safer with a child. It would be rather than Sunak, yeah. How in hell does Space Karen intend to monetize it? Well, so his latest schemes are, what is it? First of all, I think there's some talk of just literally making everyone pay for it. Now, here's the thing. I'd be perfectly happy to pay for a subscription to Twitter. Unfortunately, because I get a lot of value from it. I get more value from, I pay hefty subscriptions to the likes of the Financial Times and the Times and quite a few other media outlets, including some international ones, because I want to read their articles that are behind the paywalls. They're useful information. I get more value from Twitter than any individual media outlet, even now. So I'd be more than happy to pay for it. Unfortunately, if I do, I get the blue tick and then I look like a tit. So I can't pay for it because then I look like an idiot. So, I don't judge people who do pay for it, by the way. Some people need to, because they've removed a load of tools that we used to have behind the paywall now, which would be quite nice. I would quite like those tools. It's if there was an option for paying for it, but hiding the fact you've paid for it, I probably would. But it's Labour need humour and message on YouTube. Well, I mean, humour is always part of it. But I look at, let's take Keir Starmer's channel, because he's done that. Just like Rishi Sunak's done a YouTube channel, Keir Starmer's done the same. Rishi Sunak's is more successful. But even then, I would still not say successful. I could still point a lot of, like, I'm just going to go on it now, just for a laugh, by the way. So if I look at Rishi Sunak's YouTube channel, can I stick it up here? Hold on. Let's see how. Let's just stick this here. I'm just going to try. Hopefully you'll be able to see enough of the. You don't have to see all the details. So if I look at this, so 652,000 subscribers, 417 videos, and I've looked. There's various tools I have to look in more detail on YouTube channels as well. But you look at this, a day ago, the truth about taxes, first general election debate, 5.5 thousand views. Now you look at it, if you're just someone who doesn't actually know how to look at the detail of a YouTube channel, you might look at the overall thing and go, oh, it's getting millions of views a month. And it's had some videos get millions of views. I've never had a video get millions of views. I've never had a video get 1 million views. But those are the outliers. The general state of it is, a day ago, 5,500 views. That's crap. I'd have to give it up if that's all I was getting. 2 days ago, 4.7 thousand, even worse. 10 days ago, because he's not putting regular content on, 15,000. Even that's crap by my standards. Ivan Ambrose, £20 super chat. Thank you. It says, I use Twitter, but they're unfortunately nasty piece of work on it. Yeah, and they're going to get nastier. One person got very personal about my autism and mental health and brought my mum into exchange. I won't accept it. I have to protect myself. Yeah, and I absolutely get that from most people. It's sort of why, I'm on there to listen anyway. I don't have a large platform. And I also have I can just really easily ignore trolls. But it's a very toxic environment. And it's a shame because although I say I'm on there because it's a brilliant platform for experts and there's a lot of experts there, but there are also some experts who've pulled away from it completely, which is a shame. There are some experts who mostly pull away from it, but they'll come on for like periods like now, the election, and then they'll go again, which is also a shame. Says, we need Angela Rayner on Labour Social. Maybe Phil could interview her on the campaign bus. That would involve going outside the house again. I've been outside the house yesterday, and as a fairly extreme introvert, I now need 3 months to recover from that. But Graham will be better at it. I am stunningly bad at getting people to do interviews. Like I do. People say on my own channel, why don't you do interviews, Phil? Why don't you do interviews? It's like, I have tried, and I still do every now and then, email people, and I say, look, this is what I am. This is the size of my channel. This is how many views I get, blah, blah, blah. And most of the time I don't get a response. Like, for this election, I've emailed a couple of pollsters asking if they'd like to be interviewed and telling them, not just, do you want to do an interview? I put detail in. I'd say what I want to talk about. Don't get a response. I have absolutely no ability to get people for interviews. And again, the idea of getting a Labour MP on, especially a senior Labour MP, seems doomed to failure for me anyway, because they don't actually understand the benefits of YouTube. They don't appreciate it. James saying, if when Starmer steps down and Rain decides to run, I would back her as leader. I would be careful about things like that. What I would do is say, obviously decide yourself. Ever since Ed Miliband, I would now always prioritize the one who is most likely to win a campaign. If you back someone because you like them, you'd better hope that 12 million other people in the country like them as well, because otherwise we're going to lose, and you let the Tories in. If you back someone because you like their policies, well, bear in mind, a Labour leader that pushes their own policies is also going to lose because it's not the policies of the majority. So I would just caution. I would say we cannot afford to back leaders who are ideologically aligned, because that's how you get Tories. It's like the nature of tactical voting, isn't it? If you back the candidate that most aligns with you, you may well get the worst possible result. You want the leads to be marmalade, not marmite. Yeah, that was sort of Neil Kinnock's line, wasn't it? Frank's saying you don't pay for. I don't pay Twitter now. I have no object. I mean, I have no objection to pay, because I pay for lots of other things. Because I need to read. I pay for lots of subscriptions for news media and journals and things, some of whom I do not like. I draw the line in some cases, but actually the line is very far away from my own principles, because I need to read what's behind the paywalls in order to know what's going on. Chris Salmon, $4.99 super chat. Thank you very much. Says, we've seen personality politics crash and burn. We need a person who can win. I mean, it's good if you've also got the personality as well. Don't get me wrong. If you've got the personality as well, but bear in mind, a strong personality can either be universally appealing, or it can draw very strong support from one group of people and disdain from another. Like if you take Nigel Farage, for example, he's got an absolutely cult-like following. Genuinely, there's a large section of the population who absolutely love him. Absolutely love him. You can argue they shouldn't because he intends them nothing but harm, but that doesn't matter. That's a matter of opinion. It's still a fact that there's a significant chunk of this population who think that the sun shines out of Nigel Farage's arse, but most people hate him. So if Nigel Farage did at one point in the future take over the Conservative Party, if he was to run the Conservative Party, he would do badly. Unless the alternatives were shocking. Unless Labour had someone equally or more unpopular leading them. But assuming that Labour had someone who was more appealing, Nigel Farage would crash and burn. Because although he has this cult-like following, he also has, most people hate. This is not like America, where people do align down one of two ways. This is not like America. Britain's very, very different state. You say the rest is politics been good for bringing MPs to YouTube. Should we have a little look at that? Just because they do have now, there's a lot of features on YouTube that were not there when I was around. So yeah, they get decent views. This is true. I'm just seeing there's a low one here on 31,000, but 129,000, 45,000, 51,000. These are very decent. I wish I could get these views consistently. 63, 53, 31 is a bit crap, but So yeah. But what I would say about this channel is they're not regular. So 1 day ago, 6 days ago, 6 days ago, 12 days ago, 2 weeks ago, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 3 weeks. So each individual video is doing all right. Unlike the Rishi Sunak one, each individual video is doing all right, but the channel itself is not, because people want to consume content regularly. So what you'd really want for a channel that's going to be really good, you want a channel that's producing, it doesn't have to be every day, but it would need to be multiple times. You'd talk 3 or 4 times a week. For that channel to have a major impact on people's behavior and attitudes, you'd need it. People need to be able to watch stuff not just once a week or twice a week, throughout the week. Ideally every day, but at least 3 or 4 times a week. Ivan Ambrose, oh my God, that's too much. For £49.99 super chat, thank you. It says, the most recent Tory MP, Tom Hunt, in my constituency, which has declared he will be standing again for the Tories. There was much speculation he was going to switch to Reform UK. However, he said he wishes the Tories were aligned to Reform UK. Yeah, because he knows he would lose as Reform UK. There is the only Reform UK seats that are, even though the polls now are sort of saying, oh, they might win 3 seats, It's like if you try and find where those 3 seats are, it's a bit tricky. Nigel Farage in Clacton is definitely possible. Lee Anderson in Ashfield doesn't seem that credible, but he'd probably have as much chance as anyone because he's got that name recognisability. Ashfield itself is a pretty messed up place, so I can't rule it out. I can't see it in the polls. I can't see how Lee Anderson stands a good chance, but I can't completely rule it out. Mad things could happen in this election. Beyond that, I can't see it. Like, where else is there? I know Richard Tice is standing in some gammon part of Lincolnshire. I think it might be Sleaford or Boston, one of those really pro-Brexit places. But he's not got much of a personality, so he's probably not going to win. But yeah, everywhere else they'd lose. They would lose. If Suella Braverman stood as Reform UK, she would lose. If Kemi Badenoch stood for Reform UK, she would lose. If Tom Hunt stood for Reform UK, he would lose. He'd lose worse than he's going to lose as a Tory. So, but there we go. Nick and Diff saying, sorry, I really enjoy Alistair Campbell and Rory Stewart. I can agree and disagree on almost everything they say. Love it. Yeah. And if they did it multiple times a week, they would have more reach. They would have more reach. I mean, the trick is, oh God, someone's saying I've missed another super chat. Oh, I have. Chaos Lord Pug, 199 super chat. Thank you. It says, any news about the PIP reform green papers? No, Parliament's in recess. It's dissolved. There are no green papers. It's gone, finished. Forget it. Everything that Parliament was doing that it didn't get finished has gone. It's finished. There is no Parliament. Doesn't exist. So anything that was in the process has been thrown into the bin permanently. It doesn't get picked up again when it opens up again. It's all gone. Finished. Forget it. Bye-bye. So the next thing that happens on anything to do with PIP or anything will be the Labour government. Tice in Hartlepool. No, Tice was standing in Hartlepool. He's not anymore. He's changed. He's gone somewhere. It is either Sleaford or Boston. I can't remember which one. I've got an inkling it's Sleaford. But I sometimes get those mixed up. They're not really, yeah. Phil, 60 seconds on leaders debate. So, okay, really quickly then. The TV debate was an absolute shambles. The format was terrible for 2 reasons. First of all, 45 seconds is not enough time to answer any questions. Sorry. Right, actually, no, I'm going to start. First of all, the questions asked by the audience were too wide-ranging. There was too much to them, right? They should have broken them down. 45 seconds is not enough time to answer even a simple question, a political question. What they should have done, if they were going to ask them a wide-ranging question, they should have given them 5 minutes and then 2 minutes to respond to each other in the debate. The host should have had a water gun, and I mean that seriously. Our dogs, because we've got pugs that are a bit thick, so you know what dogs are like. If they see something out the window, they'll have a bark at it. That's fine. That's what dogs do. And you say, shut up, and they shut up, right? That's how it works with dogs. Our dogs are a bit thick. So most of the time I say shut up and they shut up. But sometimes they go, rah, 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 rah. So then you have to shut them up some other way. So I have a water gun. And if they won't shut up, I'll squirt them with the water gun. Except I don't have to do that anymore, because now every time I get the water gun out, they just shut up because they don't want squirting in the face. So the host needed that. She needed to say to them at the start of it, when it's the other person's time to talk, you can huff and puff at the side, you go, because they were both doing that. Oh, absolute rubbish. Do that, but if you talk over them, you're getting squirted. Now, we know that Rishi Sunak is used to getting wet whilst talking, but I still don't think he would enjoy being squirted in the face on national television. So the host should have had a water gun at the side of her. So the actual format was a shambles. But at the same time, at the end of it, you got the feeling that Starmer could have done a lot better, yeah? You thought, that wasn't brilliant, was it? That wasn't brilliant. However, when they then revealed that letter the next day, and it forced all the broadcast news outlets to fact check Rishi Sunak, and they won the Twitter war on it as well. In fact, I'll tell you. Let me show you something. Hold on. I need to get rid of this last thing because we have run over time, well over time, I'm afraid. But I need to just show you something. Kevin Hollyoak. So he's just a Labour candidate, a Conservative candidate, right? So he posted a tweet with this fabrication. Okay. So first of all, he has a community note, right? But I want to look at this. So anyone who knows Twitter knows this is an absolutely mad situation. Can you see it there? There it is. Oops, hello. So he's got 118 likes, 1.6 thousand comments. Now, everyone knows if you see a tweet that's got more comments than likes, it's because people are taking exception to it. If someone likes it, they like what you've got to say. If someone comments, maybe they like what you've got to say, or maybe they're calling you out. If you've got more comments than likes, your tweet is a bad one. This has got about 13 times as many comments as likes. So, and that's just one example, but the Twitter sphere is flooded with it. The Tories are still trying to push this nonsense. And Rufus saying, do I mean a literal water gun or a figurative one? How would a figurative one work? No, a real one. If a real one. These water guns, it's not. I'm not talking about water pistol. I've got a proper water gun. You could easily clear the studio, and it's pinpoint accurate. I'd knock his glasses off. Did he have glasses? I can't remember if he had glasses or not. Anyway, that's so basically what's happened is we've come away from the TV debate thinking that was an absolute shambles. We learnt nothing, and Keir Starmer didn't really seem to do very well. And now we're looking at it thinking, bloody hell, Labour are playing some 4D chess here because they've now trapped Rishi Sunak. And they've still got to close the trap, but they've trapped him into telling an obvious lie. They've got to close the trap at the next TV debate. Keir Starmer needs to come into the next TV debate with that letter paper-clipped to his tie. Oh, what's this? Let me explain what this is. That's what he needs to do. But anyway, we have massive run over time there, I'm afraid. Thanks very much for watching. Don't forget to click the like button on your way out, as well as subscribe to the channel, of course. Have a great day, and until next time, I will maybe see you later. Someone's saying super chat. Oh, sorry, Bad Bone 777, £2 super chat. Thank you. Tories are brand now, far right fighting for ownership. Well, that is it. But you can lose a brand. Just ask Ratners. If you don't know what Ratners is, that's how quickly you can lose a brand. But anyway, thanks for coming on, everyone. And until next time, I will see you later.
There was another super chat at the end there as well. So, I don't know.